Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. A Delicate Arrangement. Chapter 9. Callum walks her back to her room in silence. They don't talk about what happened on the tower. Rilla is almost afraid to bring it up because it means having to admit to the warmth that had bloomed in her chest when he held her so close. She's not an idiot. She spent long enough today pining over him to know exactly what this is. And when he pulled her into him, his hands on her waist, his eyes landing for a split second on her lips, she panicked and pulled away, unwilling to fool herself into the hope that there might be something else there. They're just friends, she reminds herself. His elbow bumps hers as he tries to maneuver through the hallways with his pillows and blankets bundled up in a heap in his arms. His touch still burns, but it's not so bad now. Rilla thinks it might be the leftover alcohol and hopes it might be acceptance of the fact that there's nothing more to their relationship. It's not so hard to be around him anymore, and perhaps there's a sign that their friendship is on its way to a full recovery. So she has that at the very least. She can get over whatever aches and pains she might have in her chest. She can't get over the idea of not being friends with him, and she'd rather let him go completely than risk that. They pause at her door. Callum shifts the bundle of Moonshadow under his one arm. Are we okay? Despite herself, Rilla smiles. We're okay, she says quietly. She wants them to be anyways, and she'll do everything in her power to make sure they are. He smiles too, relieved. It makes her heart thump loudly against her ribs. So, I'll see you in the morning? You will, she promises, touching his hand the way she hopes she always has been, and not in any way that might give her away. Good night. Good night, Rilla. He squeezes her fingers gently, offering her one last sort of tipsy smile, and heads backwards down the hall. Rilla watches him go, waiting for him to disappear into his own rooms before she shuts her door at last. She presses her back against it, slides down to the wood until she's willing until she's sitting on the cold stone floor and sighs in her hands. It's fine, she mutters to herself, willing it to be because it has to be. It's been fine for 2 years. There's no reason anything has to change now. It's fine. I can do this. It's fine. But it's not. It'll only hurt her if she lets it, and she refuses to let it. Callum's friendship is worth that. Callum is worth that. They go to breakfast together the next morning. Rayla likes to think she's grown used to the stares she gets around the castle. But there's something different today. They don't seem wary of her. They seem curious. Of what? She's not entirely sure. She ignores them for the most part, and it's easy with Callum beside her again. He chatters all the way down to the dining hall, makes silly jokes that make her laugh, and plans to visit Ellis and his family later that afternoon, this time with her. He hardly notices the way the guards look at them, like they know something he and she don't. He's just happy they're okay again, and Rayla can't blame him for it. Yesterday was hard. So hard she made the decision to just deal with it. The relationship, whatever it is to him, whatever it means to her. Because she'd rather this pain over the pain of doing that all over again. This is easy compared to wandering the castle grounds and braving those looks on her own. Compared to convincing herself that everything's fine and with no external assurance of it apart from Vorby, who is a horse she can only have half a conversation with. This is much better, she thinks, as they nudge each other into the dining hall and take their usual seats across from each other and greet Ezran good morning the way they always have. The thought of their potential marriage almost entirely forgotten, at least until Ezran fixes her with a look. One eyebrow raised, chin resting on his knuckles, lip quirking in an almost smirk that asks her silently if they finally figured themselves out. Rayla presses her lips together, offers him the tiniest shake of her head. Sort of, not really, it's complicated, and turns back to her breakfast, staring a little too hard at the jar of jam in front of Callum before she has the sense to actually reach for it. So, says Ezran carefully, frowning between the two of them. Everything's back to normal? Yeah, says Callum, nodding eagerly. Yeah, everything's great. If you don't need us here later, I'm going to take Rayla to the Wishbone. You know about the Wishbone? Asked Ezran excitedly. You guys are usually so busy when you're here. I'm glad you found it on your own. Actually, Claudia took me, Callum tells him. I didn't realize she still visited so often. I mean, I knew she and Soren weren't staying in the castle anymore, so when she found me yesterday, it was a surprise. Ezran ducks his head. Sorry I didn't tell you, he mutters. I wasn't sure if, after all the stuff that happened, I wasn't sure if you wanted to know. No, it's good, says Callum. We caught up and hung out at the Wishbone for a while. It was a good afternoon. A little smile tugs at the corner of his mouth, and Rayla takes it as a surreptitious breath and goes back to staring at the jam. It's fine, she thinks. This is fine. It's fine. Anyways, continues Callum, if it's okay with you, I want to take Rayla later. I think she'll like it. Of course it's okay with me, says Ezran, shrugging. You guys can do whatever you like. It just sucks that I can't go with you. He groans childishly and pouts into his juice. Being king sucks. Next time, chuckles Callum. He helps himself to the fruit in the middle of the table as the dining hall doors swing open and General Blaine strides in, his jaws clenching shut, his eyes hard. Forgive me, Your Majesty, he says, bowing to Ezran, but this is unacceptable. The rumors are getting out of hand. This can't continue. Rayla can practically see the physical effort Ezran has to put in to keep his face straight. He rolls his eyes. What are you on about now, Blaine? Blaine jabs an armored finger at Rayla and scowls. It has come to my attention that her ladyship is already romantically involved with Prince Callum. He spits the title and glares, disgusted by the very idea. He's answered by silence at first, and maybe just because it's been such a hard couple of days, or just the emotional turmoil she's been dealing with, or maybe she's just really dislikes Blaine. But in the end, Rayla laughs. Ezran raises an eyebrow at her, and Callum stares, unsure how to react. But Rayla's had enough, she thinks. The fact that the thought is still prominent, the thought is still prominent, this reaction after 3 years of hard work, the fact that Blaine thinks it's any of his business to begin with, the fact that there isn't actually a romance there, no matter how much she wants there to be, is hilarious in her most mirthless way imaginable. Where do you get your ideas, General? She asked, wiping a tear away from her eyes. Why, you, my lady, he snarls, storming towards her. Did you not spend the night on the northern tower with His Highness last night? Did he not dismiss the guards posted there for your privacy? Are you trying to say he did this, and all you did was talk? Do you think perhaps he dismissed them because this reaction might be worse if he hadn't? Snaps Rayla. She gets to her feet as he approaches, and one hand, her hip, the fingers on the other twitching towards the blades at her back. Imagine what might have happened if they stayed, she drawled. Imagine all the juicy details you and your little guards might have to gossip about. You don't deny it. Rayla snorts. What would be the point in that? She snaps. You'd only accuse me of being a liar and a That's enough. Callum's in front of her all of a sudden, his hands on Blaine's breastplate to keep him from coming any closer. Rayla hadn't even noticed him getting up. I'm not going to deny it, he sees. Are you going to call me a liar, General? I'm going to deny it, he sees. Are you going to call me a liar, General? Blaine falters. We talked, Callum snapped. That's all. Blaine scowls at him. This behavior is doing nothing for your reputation, Your Highness. It can't continue. You should see what this behavior is doing to yours. Callum gives him an unfriendly smirk and shoves him back. There's a threat in his voice, and Rayla is suddenly and violently reminded of what he's capable of as an archmage. Is there anything else? Blaine fumes, his face red enough to match his cape, but he says nothing and turns on his heels. Rayla watches him go over Callum's shoulder, her heart pounding too quickly and too loudly in her ears. She pushes past him, her breath uneven. Whatever plans they may have had for the day disappear in her anger. Callum stops her with a hand on her wrist. His breath is heavy too, but his fingers are gentle. Sorry about him, he mumbles. Are you okay? Fine, snaps Rayla. Fine, like everything else. Bloody dandy. He's out of line, Rayla, says Ezran quietly. I'll talk to him. Because he listens to you, doesn't he? Callum's fingers squeeze around her wrist. Rayla, come on. Behind her, Ezran touches her elbow and she relents. He's being the best king he can be, but she knows better than anyone that trying your hardest might not make a difference for the most stubborn. Sorry, Ez, she mumbles. I shouldn't have snapped. Don't worry about it, says Ezran with a smile. You guys should go. Spend some time away from the castle. I'll take care of Blan. Callum blinks and shakes his head. Whoa, hey, by yourself? What's he gonna do? Laughed Ezran. I'm the king. Go. It'll be fine. Blaine still fusing when he bursts into the Crow Lord's tower, snatching a letter, scrunched letter in hand. The nerve of that elf. How dare she? How dare they? Callum may be a prince and an archmage, but he has no business disrespecting him over an elf. Blaine didn't spend decades sending his forces to the breach to keep the Pentarchy safe for this. He hurls the letter at the Crow Master with a scowl. Where is the Crow Lord? He snaps. The Crow Master arches an eyebrow at him. In Evanir for business, General? He stammers. Who am I sending this to? Blaine scowls. General Maya. He sneers. I need it sent to her as soon as possible. The Crowmaster studies him, the corner of his mouth pulling downward in uncertainty, but he doesn't object. I can have it done this afternoon, General. Good, Blaine snaps, and I want to be notified as soon as she responds. Yes, sir. Blaine huffs, his displeasure settling just a little bit. If the boys won't listen, fine. They'll listen to Amaya, and at the very least, Amaya will listen to him.